This video will walk you through your first assignment. I'm calling it static portraits because you're using trace monotype, which makes a very staticky line quality. To build a background for this print, you're first going to use 2 or 3 relief carved stamps that you've made out of Easy Carve to layer and build a background of color and shape. Here, I'm mixing up a green ink, and you may think if you're going to mix up green, you need equal parts yellow and equal parts blue. But here, I'm going to show you that often your darker value color, like the blue, can be so powerful that you want to add it very sparingly. So you see, there's an overwhelming amount of yellow in this mixture, and just a little dab of blue. Showing you how to mix ink here because I think it's important to see that you use the ink knife to spread the ink out and scrape it back up. And that's really how you're mixing. You are not stirring the ink, you are scraping and spreading. And every time I press my knife down, I'm seeing if there's streaks of the 2 colors or if it's becoming more consistent. I'm laying out a stripe of the ink and then using my brayer. I am rolling in one direction and then I'm going to roll in the opposite direction to evenly coat my brayer and charge it up with ink. You charge the brayer and then you charge up the stamp or the block. You don't want to dip your stamp into the ink slab. And cover your stamp with ink. Make sure it's evenly coated. And here I'm proofing again. I've switched colors from when I proofed the stamp with blue, and I'm seeing, do I like the color? Do I like what it looks like when I stamp it multiple times? Also in proofing, I'm experimenting with how the stamp overlaps. So far, I have recharged my stamp every time I print it, but I can also just keep printing with it and see how the ink dissipates. Do I like it when it's more opaque, or do I like it when it's more transparent? You're seeing a little bit of the blue color that I used prior sneaking through on the surface of the stamp, but I think it's actually kind of a cool effect here. Now, this is my final print. I am building up and overlapping this stamp. I'm turning it and I'm thinking about where I'm building up darker value, more opaque areas, and that's the first layer of the background. And I want you to use more than one stamp. And so I'm just using a really basic circular stamp that I've cut and using a slightly darker ink. I'm just adding a touch more blue to the same green that I had mixed up before. Placing this in a few areas, I'm really composing abstractly here. In your prints, you can take a different design tactic. You're going to be making 2 prints that use the same stamps, but can use different blind contour tracings. That way, you get to do the process all the way through twice, and you'll turn in 2 prints. So here's my background layer. Next, I have to decide what do I want to trace for my trace monotype. So I want everybody to make a blind contour self-portrait. You see me working here. I'm using my Zoom screen as a mirror, and I drew for probably about 2 minutes and didn't look at the paper. And then for the last 30 seconds, another minute, I did look at the paper and I beefed up the drawing and I gave it more contrast, or I gave it kind of a more solid look than what I was getting from the blind contour drawing. Doing blind contours is a really great way to loosen up and embrace accidental lines and the way that you would draw when you're not trying to be a perfectionist. So for the Trace Monotype slab, I'm mixing up a darker blue. I'm using the same blue but a little bit of black. I've rolled out a slab that's about the same size as my paper, and I'm taping down my drawing and the background print, which is face down. For this Trace Monotype, I stuck with just a ballpoint pen, and I can lift up and check to make sure it's working. This is a pretty juicy Trace Monotype. It was a real thick line quality. I think it was transferred really nice. As I work, I look at the print to see what does it need. Does it need areas of darker value? Do I need to press on certain areas if I want more of a shadow area? So I pulled it off and I have a really strange abstract self-portrait that has 3 layers using both relief and Trace Monotype.